السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله قال الله عز وجل في القرآن المجيد يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون صدق الله العظيم أما بعد. We begin by praising Allah, our Creator, our Sustainer, the one who we owe our very existence to. We praise Him for everything that He has done for us. We thank Him for all the blessings that we've been given. We ask Allah for help and guidance for everything we do in our lives. And we ask Allah for forgiveness for all the mistakes that we've made. As Muslims, we declare that nobody deserves to be worshipped besides Allah. And we declare that Muhammad was the last and final messenger and prophet that has been sent for our guidance and the guidance of all humanity until the end of time. Respected brothers, sisters, and guests, psychologists used to think for several decades or even centuries that a person's success in this life is primarily determined by their intelligence. So if you want to figure out how successful an individual is going to be in their career, in terms of what type of job they're going to get, how much they're going to move up the corporate ladder. If you want to determine if someone is going to make it into and graduate from a good university or get a good degree, a master's or PhD or whatever it may be, you can actually go back and look and see this person succeeded because they had a high level of intelligence. And they started studying children. And when they looked at children, they noticed, they said, you know what, there was a trend. The trend seemed to be that those kids who grow up getting into gang culture, those kids who are not able to maintain a successful marriage when they become adults, those children who cannot make it into a good university or do good in school or good in high school, it was assumed for a very long time that it was because they didn't have the same intelligence as their peers, as their colleagues, as their friends in school had. But something interesting has happened recently in the past decade. That research has been overturned. And now research has changed and it says we made a mistake. It is not your intelligence that's going to determine your success in your life. There's another factor in addition to intelligence that's not only more important, but it's twice as important. It's 100 times more important that's going to determine whether you're successful or you end up doing these other bad things in life. It's not intelligence, it is self-control. It is discipline. So now these studies are coming out from American universities saying that the more a person has self-control and discipline in their own life, the more likely we are able to predict that this person is going to do good in school, they're going to do good in their job, they're going to have a good, successful marriage, they're going to do good in their family life. And if a person lacks self-discipline, if a person lacks the ability to control themselves, those children who you see don't have the ability to control themselves very well, they end up with addictive behaviors, whether it's drug addiction or it's porn addiction. They're the most likely ones to end up doing crimes or getting involved in gangs or not able to maintain, a good grade point average or whatever it may be. And this is really interesting. The reason why it's interesting for us as Muslims is because that our success in this life is also dependent upon the amount of discipline and self-control that we have. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that we have to live our lives according to Islam, it's not just about how intelligent you are. It's not about how many problems you can solve. It's not about your IQ. Your higher IQ is not going to get you a higher place in paradise. But there's an aspect of self-control that's going to lead to your success in the next life. And all of us want success in the next life. But that's where we come back and we say, what are some of the things that Islam teaches us about self-control? So today, I want to just focus on 3 things. 3 pieces of advice that the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, gave to us as reminders on where we need to focus and where we need to build this self-control. The first one is self-control with regards to our food intake. The Prophet ﷺ said in an authentic hadith, he said, مَا مَلَأَ آدَمِيٌّ وِعَاءً شَرًّا مِنْ بَطْنٍ. He said that no person can fill any vessel worse than their stomach. The worst vessel that you could possibly fill is your stomach. And then he said, بِحَسْبِ ابْنِ آدَمْ أُكُلَاتٌ يُقِمْنَ صُلْبًا. It's sufficient for the son of Adam, meaning for an average human being, to eat meals which keep their back up straight. Now, what does it mean to keep your back up straight? It means that you're healthy. It's an Arabic idiom, a phrase, for meaning that you're healthy. Because when you're hungry and you don't have enough food to eat, you start crouching over and you're holding your stomach. And the Prophet ﷺ is trying to tell us that as human beings, you've been made by Allah. You've been programmed in a way where you only need to eat the amount of food that is going to make you functional in life. You can run, you can walk, you have enough energy, you have enough nutrition in your life. That suffices for you. That's all you need to eat. But the Prophet ﷺ was merciful. He was compassionate and he understood human psychology. He knows how human beings think, he knows how we think. So he said, he continued, he didn't stop the statement. And he said, for those people who want to eat more than that, they're not going to restrict themselves just to eating the amount of nutrition that they need. And most of us perhaps fall into that category. I'm guilty of that as well. We understand that many human beings around the world, they're eating to live. But then there are other people who are actually living to eat. And eating is like a pastime for them. It's like a hobby for them. And we enjoy good food, especially Muslims, mashallah. We have so many diverse cultures. We have such amazing food, the biryanis and the harisas and the maqlubas and all that stuff. There's really good food there. It's hard to control yourself sometimes. So the Prophet ﷺ understood that, and he continued the hadith and he said, فَإِن كَانَ لَا مَحَالَةَ. If you're not able to do what I just told you, if you're not able to restrict yourself to only eating the amount of nutrition that you need in the day, فَإِن كَانَ لَا مَحَالَةَ فَثُلُثٌ لِطَعَامِهِ وَثُلُثٌ لِشَرَابِهِ وَثُلُثٌ لِنَفَسِهِ. Then a third for food, and a third for drink, and leave a third for space to breathe. Most people only know the second half of the hadith. That, this is the recommendation. Actually, the recommendation was, eat what you need to be healthy. But if you can't do that, and you have to eat more, then here's the maximum limit for you. That's the actual hadith. This is an authentic hadith. So what is the Prophet, peace be upon him, trying to tell us? He's trying to tell us that we should be concerned about how much self-control we have when we go and we approach food. Now we know that it's difficult sometimes, especially you're invited to a walima, you're invited somewhere, and all of a sudden, the tastiest food you've ever seen in your life, and usually it's free, if you don't count the cost of the gift and all of that stuff. And people just go in there and they just start eating and eating, and oftentimes they come home and they have a stomach pain, a stomach ache, and they can't sleep that night and all of that. It's something that we experience. And in the Muslim community, we see that it's becoming a problem. And it's not only a problem in our community, it's a problem across the entire society in which we live. According to the Centers for Disease and Control, CDC, they say that the average American male weighs 195 pounds. The average American female weighs 165 pounds. And they say that obesity is becoming an epidemic now. It's becoming such an epidemic, but the reason why it's becoming an epidemic is due to people's lifestyle, in terms of the way that they work, desk jobs and all of that, which is understandable, but it also has to do with their eating habits. And what they say is that over 1/3 of Americans are considered obese, and the health problems that are associated with this are now being manifested to us. According to the CDC, again, it costs $200 billion a year just to deal with the illnesses and the diseases that are a result of actually this overeating or these lifestyle changes that have happened in our society. So we, looking back at this hadith, looking back at the advice that the Prophet ﷺ is giving us, it's actually more important that we take this into consideration. Because not only it has spiritual effects, it has physical effects which are harming our bodies as well. If you think about the cost that I just gave you, $200 billion. If you divide that by the actual adult population of the United States of America, we're looking at $2,750 per person. That's how much it costs in just preventing the diseases, and much of it is caused by not following this advice. Can you imagine that, when tax time comes around, you get a tax refund check, and people get very happy, they got money back from the government. It's actually their own money that they overpaid and just they're getting it back, but they feel happy anyways. Imagine the government were to give you every year a check at the end, $2,750. Thank you for following the hadith. That's exactly what we're talking about here. This is exactly something which would solve the problems right there in the advice of Islam, in the advice of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So when it comes to this, we should be cautious. We should be careful. We enjoy food. There's nothing wrong with enjoying good food. But we need to be careful, and we need to look at ourselves and say, do we have control over our own cravings and our own desires? Or are our desires in control over us? And to add to all of that, we actually find people around the world who are starving and they don't have enough food to eat. And yet other people, they're dying because of the amount of food that they're eating. That's definitely a sad situation. But that's not the only area in which the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ encouraged us to control ourselves. The second area in which he emphasized that we need to have self-control is when it comes to anger. The Prophet ﷺ said in an authentic hadith, he said, لَيْسَ الشَّدِيدُ بِسُرْعَةٍ. He said that the strong person is not defined by the ability to wrestle someone down. A strong person is not a wrestler. It's not an MMA, UFC fighter. It's not someone who could just go beat people up. It's not someone who can lift a bunch of, bench press, 500 pounds or something in the gym. That's not the real definition of strength. So the Prophet ﷺ is telling us, I'm going to redefine what real strength is for you. لَيْسَ الشَّدِيدُ بِالسُّرْعَةِ. This is not the definition of strength. Rather, إِنَّمَا الشَّدِيدُ الَّذِي يَمْلِكُ نَفْسَهُ عِنْدَ الْغَضَبِ. The true definition of a strong person is the one who's able to control themselves when they're aroused to anger. When they get angry and they're able to control themselves, that's what real strength is. Because you can pump iron, you can beat people up, you can do all of those things, but those same people who can go and dominate somebody else physically, they cannot even dominate their own egos. They cannot dominate their own desires in themselves. So that's not the real definition of strength. It's not physical strength. There's something above and beyond that. And that's where anger becomes a very dangerous thing. You know, if you go and you just look, you don't even have to ask someone. You could ask, if you were to have a hand raising, you say, how many people have ever gotten angry? That's not even worth asking that question. Everyone's got angry. How many of you got angry and did something that you regretted? There's no point of even asking that because everyone's going to raise their hand. The question is, when's the last time you got angry and you did something that you regretted? Was it in the last year? It's probably in the last month. For some people, it's probably in the last week. And some people said, right before I came to Jummah, I yelled at my wife, or yelled at my husband, yelled at my kids, or spoke back to my parents or something. It's just something which happens on a regular basis. It's so easy for people, when they get angry, when they get upset, to do things which they're going to regret later on. And you talk to people, and you say, you know what, hey, there's a wedding coming up, here's a wedding invitation. Can you hand it to your brother for me? My brother? Our side of the family doesn't talk to him. We haven't spoken to him for 7 years, Your own brother? You haven't spoken to your own brother in 7 years? Yeah, Oh, how about you give it to your uncle? Oh, the uncle? No, that side of the family doesn't talk to that side of the family. And this has become commonplace. How did it happen? Because one person couldn't control their anger, and now the other people got angry, and now a fight broke out, and no one is willing to forgive the other person. It's breaking apart families. It breaks apart anger. Uncontrolled anger breaks apart the best of friendships. This is something that's extremely destructive. And we need to realize that when we get angry, it's something natural. People will naturally get angry. Getting angry and upset is not haram in and of itself. It's how you react when you get angry. In fact, if you don't get angry at anything, something's wrong with you. Imam al-Shafi'i, he said in some lines of poetry, he said, "Man istughdiba wa lam yaghdab, fahuwa himar." He said, whoever is aroused to anger and they don't get angry is no better than a donkey. You slap the guy here, you slap him there, nothing bothers him, nothing gets him upset. No, of course, you can get angry, you can get upset, but are you able to control your actions when you're in that state? Are you able to resist letting your tongue fire, or punching a wall, or hurting somebody when you get upset and when you get angry? That's what the Prophet ﷺ is talking about here. It's not that you have to not get angry. You have to control yourself when you get angry. You have to control yourself when you get upset. And that is something that very few people can do. And that's what the real definition of strength is. So that's something that we need to make sure that we're also exercising, that level of self-control, that level of self-restraint, so that we don't go off when we get angry or when we get excited or something starts to bother us. But there's another aspect we need to focus on as well. We talked about food, we talked about anger, and there's a third aspect of self-control, and that is our desire for luxuries, our desire for wealth. The Prophet ﷺ gave us some advice in this regard. He said in an authentic hadith, he said, لو أن ابن آدم أعطي واديا ملأ من ذهب لأحب إليه ثانية. He said that if the son of Adam, meaning a human being, if any human being were given an entire valley full of gold, right? For those of you who are disconnected from nature, living in Orange County here, a valley is the thing between two hills, right? It's a large quantity. Right? Imagine you have a truckload, a giant truck full of just gold bricks, and gold is over $1,000 an ounce. You hit the lottery, the halal lottery, no gambling involved, right? You have millions and millions of dollars worth of gold, and you just got it, and it's given to you. What did the Prophet ﷺ say? He said he'd want a second. He's given a valley full of gold. Where's the next one? When's the next one coming? How can we invest this so we get the second one? He said he'll want a second one. And then he said, وَلَوْ أُعْطِيَ ثَانِيًا أَحَبَّ إِلَيْهِ ثَالِثًا. And if he gets a second valley, second truckload of gold, right? He wants a third. He's not satisfied with what he's been given. No matter how abundant it is, he will want to have more and more and more. And then the Prophet ﷺ said, وَلَا يَسُدُّ جَوْفَ ابْنَ آدَمْ إِلَّا التُّرَابِ. Nothing is going to fill up the insides of the son of Adam, of the human being, except the dirt. What does that mean? Meaning until the person dies and they're put into the ground and their body starts to decay, the only thing that's going to fill their appetite is going to be the dirt. Meaning they're not going to be satisfied in this life. They're going to want more and more and more always. And this is a rebuke. This is a criticism of the Prophet ﷺ, saying people who get into this mentality, and many people will fall into this mentality, they're never happy with what they have. If they have the brand new phone, 1 month later, a new color comes out, and they say, man, I bought the space gray model, and now they released the rose gold model, and I'm so disappointed. I want to sell this and get the new one, right? It's a few gigabytes behind or something. They're never content with what they have. If you can afford it, alhamdulillah, great. But there are many people, they can't even afford it. They don't even have the ability to get it, but they feel that they absolutely need this thing. In fact, this is one of the big problems that we face in our community today, is that people feel that they need something when actually they want something, and they cannot make a differentiation between what they want and what they think they need. There was an incident that happened to me actually, is that I had bought a phone for my wife. It was one of those Google phones. It was really good quality at the time and everything, and my wife didn't like it. So I said, okay, fine, no problem. We're going to sell it on Craigslist. Craigslist is one of those sites where you can list things for sale on the internet. Someone will come and pick it up from your house, or you meet them somewhere or whatever. So I put on Craigslist, and I think I was selling the phone for like $300. And I just wanted to just get rid of it very quickly. So just take the loss, whatever. So this guy contacts me, and he says, you know what? I'll give you $250 for that phone. And I said, man, I listed it for $300. That's quite a ways down. I said, no, okay. I said, okay, fine, $290. And the guy says, no, $250. And I said, okay, this guy doesn't understand how to bargain, because I go down a little bit, you go down a little bit. This is the way that it works. I said, okay, $280. And he says, no, $250. This guy really doesn't know how to bargain. So I tried to explain to him, look, you're supposed to go down a little bit. I go down a little bit. Let's meet halfway. He goes, no, you don't understand. I only have $250. I don't have any money besides. That's the only amount of money that I have. I'm like, okay, whatever. Maybe, whatever. Let's sell this guy. This is not a Muslim, by the way. So I said, let me just get rid of this, whatever. The guy's got to have something I could, trade in addition to the $50 that's lacking. I said, do you have anything, USB sticks or some CDs, or you must have a, printer, or just give me something else in addition to the $250 cash, and you can have the phone. I just wanted to get rid of it quickly. And the guy says, no, you don't understand. I'm actually emailing you from the library. I don't have a computer. I don't have anything. In fact, my home is like deteriorated completely. All I have is some bricks in my house. I absolutely have nothing. I mean, literally nothing. Don't have a thing. Don't have a bicycle. I don't have anything. All I have is $250, and I'm not getting paid for another 3 weeks. But this guy somehow thinks in his mind that he needs a top quality 5-inch 8-megapixel super smartphone at the time, despite the fact that he does not have the money for it. And there are many people like that. They fall into this trap of thinking that they need something, yet they can't afford it. So there's something that's a luxury, something that it's nice to have, but if you can't afford it, and you say, I still want it anyways, no, I absolutely need it in my mind. I'll even go and take a loan from somebody else. I'll put it on a credit card even though I can't pay the credit card. I need to have that thing as well. This is a disease, brothers and sisters, that we're facing today. And this is something that we really need to stop and reflect upon. This is exactly what the Prophet ﷺ was describing. This characteristic that when you're given these things and still you're not happy with it and you want to have more, and you're given that too and you still want to have more. This is something which really requires a level of self-control. It requires us to step back and say, wait a minute, what are we doing? What is going wrong in our society? What is happening to me in my own personal life? Instead, we should thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for all the blessings that He's given us. And when we thank Him for those blessings, inshallah, He will increase those blessings for us. But we need to be realistic. We need to understand our own self-deficiencies. We need to understand our own faults. And we need to increase in our self-control, in our ability to be able to resist some of these things. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us and guide us at all times. Ameen. Astaghfirullah li wa lakum wa li sa'iril muslimin fastaghfiruhu innahu huwal ghafurur rahim. Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ba'd. So we've been talking about self-control. Before we continue, I want to urge everyone to just move in and fill in all the gaps. If you see any small gap, please just move up. And the sister side as well, inshallah, if the sisters are there in their room, they can move up as well, inshallah. Please make sure to fill in the gaps if you see any gaps. So we've been talking about self-control. Self-control particularly in three aspects. And that is food, anger, and our desire and our craving for wealth. Now these are things which help us in this world, and they also help us in the akhirah, inshallah ta'ala, to help us to reach Jannah, inshallah ta'ala. Now the thing we need to understand is that when we behave as Muslims, when we try to practice Islam, there's two ways to practice Islam. The first way to practice Islam is going to become a little bit stressful for us. And many of us do this. We practice Islam by thinking that, you know what, Allah has forbidden these things for me, so I just got to stay away. I got to stay away, but in the back of my mind, I wish I could do that. You know, and I'll tell you honestly, I grew up that way, you know. So you go to a birthday party with some non-Muslim friends or whatever it is, and they order the pepperoni pizza, and you go, you know, look, I'm a Muslim, I'm not going to eat the pepperoni pizza, but I wish I could, you know, and you're staring at that pizza and you're thinking, you know, I know it smells a little funny, but just, I wonder what it tastes like, you know, and you're just staring at it and it's kind of burning inside, you know, and you go to school, everyone has a girlfriend, or if you're a girl, everyone has a boyfriend, or even if you're not a girl, you know, these things happen too. And now what happens is you're thinking, staring, I wish I could have that too. You know, and you're burning inside, you say, I'm not going to go to the dance, I'm not going to go to the prom, and I'm not going to do all of these things. And what eventually starts happening is you start wearing yourself down because you're making all these resistant, you know, decisions. But if you change your mentality, just slightly, and you start to reflect and you say, you know what, okay, these people are, you know, drinking alcohol, they're doing all these things. I know as a Muslim we're not supposed to do it, but you start to reflect upon the fact that, you know what, my Creator, the one who made me, knows better why He has prohibited this for me. He understands He made everything with this perfect design. He has a superior intelligence, He has a superior wisdom, and there's something good in it for me. So now, when I look at alcohol and I see all these people in my college and they're partying and they're drinking, and I'm thinking, oh yeah, I can't participate in that because I'm a Muslim. Rather than sitting there and saying, you know, I wonder if only it was halal and if this and this. Now you start to reflect upon the wisdom and you say, you know what, look at all the DUIs, look at all the driving under the influence accidents that happen. Look how many women end up going to parties and they get something in their, you know, they get drunk or whatever, they end up getting raped, they end up, you know, making horrible life decisions because of these things. Alhamdulillah, Allah prohibited this for me for a good reason, for a wisdom, and I'm so happy that Allah prevented me from doing this because I know it's for my own good, and I can even see some of the wisdom, some of the effects of that. When you live Islam according to that way, rather than, I wish it wasn't haram, but rather, Alhamdulillah, Allah made it haram for me. Alhamdulillah, Allah stopped me and Islam prevents me from going into that lifestyle because I know it's not good for me. You know what's going to happen? What's going to happen is, every time you resist something, it now becomes an enjoyable activity. It becomes something you say, you know what, Alhamdulillah, I didn't get stuck like that guy. Alhamdulillah, you know, that didn't happen to me. And psychologically what happens, every time you have an enjoyable activity and you think that it's enjoyable, it elicits a dopamine release in your brain. And it actually reduces the secretion of stress hormones. So you go down on your stress, you have less stress, and dopamine is actually the same euphoric feeling that you get if you were taking drugs. But of course, Muslims won't take drugs. But when people get high, they get really happy. that's dopamine released into the neurons of your brain, so you feel great. So when you live your life, when you make some adjustment, you say, I'm going to live my life as a Muslim. Muslim meaning someone who submits and surrenders themselves to the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I'm going to be content about it, I'm going to be happy about it, because I know that everything my Creator has told me to do, whether it's prayer or avoid, whether it's drinking or pork, whatever it is, it has some wisdom in it and I know it's good for me. So when I reflect upon that, now you feel great being a Muslim. Now, not only do you practice Islam, but now you have less stress. Now you actually feel good every time you're doing something. And that's something very important, because living in this society today, with the Islamophobia on the rise, and with all the temptations around us, it's very difficult to maintain that Islamic identity and feel like, you know what, I'm a Muslim, I love Islam, I love the Quran, I love the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And we all need to have that. We all need to have that, and if we put ourselves into this mentality and reflect a little bit more about the wisdom behind Islam and everything that Islam has prescribed, inshaAllah ta'ala, it will be more beneficial to us. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us and guide us at all times. We ask Allah, oh Allah, increase us in our faith. Oh Allah, increase us in our certainty. Oh Allah, help all those people who are going through difficulties and those who are suffering. Oh Allah, help install just and righteous leaders over us. Oh Allah, help us to see the truth as truth and help us to follow it. Oh Allah, help us to see the false as false and keep us away from it. Ameen. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun wa salamun ala al-mursaleen walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. A few announcements here, so maybe a little bit more than a few, so you probably want to stay seated, inshallah. So first of all, the presentation at OCIF on Muslim candidates training tonight is postponed, and we're going to let you know about the new date. The OCIF after school program on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 3:30 is for children ages 5 to 12 with Arabic, Islamic studies and Quran. Registration is still open for that. Pillars Academy infant program is still open for registration. OCIF open house is this Sunday between 11 to 3. So try to invite one of your non-Muslim friends or neighbors or something. They can come and learn about Islam. The volunteer meeting for that is tonight at 7:30. OCIF is having a voters registration table outside. You can check that out. OCIF is holding a discussion on the work of the Catholic Relief Services in Afghanistan in the MPR on Friday, October 21st at 7 p.m. All classes tonight are on. Friday Quran class at 5 p.m. and the middle and youth groups at 7 p.m. As well. There's two tables outside. One of them is Quest Preparatory Academy Bake Sale. You can visit and support them, inshallah. And the other table that I'm going to be at is California Islamic University. I'll just briefly tell you about that. We started an Islamic university here in the city of Fullerton in Orange County. And what it is, it's a 2-year program offering a bachelor's degree in Islamic law and theology. And it's designed for all Muslim students or all students who don't want to drop out of school, but they want to simultaneously pursue their degree in engineering or computer science or whatever at one university, UC Irvine or Cal State Fullerton or whatever, and simultaneously learn Islam at the same time while also earning a second bachelor's degree. So please check out that table for more information. Wa aqimus salam.